And welcome to News from the Host. I'm here today with Emma Fryer, Associate Director of Tech UK. Hello, Emma.
Hi, Gary.
You're very welcome back to Ireland.
Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, and joining us for our global partner hosting event in Carton House. Did you have a nice swim last night?
Great swim, thank you.
Did you? So, we've met many times at many events, and you've always impressed upon me that it's a collective. Data doesn't know Ireland from the UK, from France. The end user doesn't know where it's originating. And I guess that's testimony as to why we're here, is that you've always extended to us in Host in Ireland, and I'm sure as you have to everywhere else, help, if you can at all help. Why are you such a unique person, if I might say, in this industry? Because I have to say you are unique. And this giving first is quite something to behold.
It's not a, I suppose it's not a, it's a sensible thing in a way, the sharing. So in my view, I mean, I'm not going to promote Ireland as the market for data centres because I represent the UK industry, but there's a lot of areas where we can work productively together. And I've worked with, we work across Europe with, Dutch data centres, Digital Europe, people in France and in Germany, because there's a lot of common issues for us that really need a combined effort. And some of that is to do with how we help our members address regulatory compliance issues. That is a big area. And so I'm always very happy to share knowledge on that. And in return, what I'm very interested to know is how your regulators regulate here compared to the UK, because they should all be regulating in a similar way, and they are so not.
Yes.
So that's one thing. The other thing I think that we can do together for everybody's benefit is explaining the sector to external stakeholders. What is a data centre? Is it, why isn't it just a big, ugly shed that uses lots of power and doesn't employ anybody? And that's what we have to explain. And that is so important because the data centre underpins the digital economy. It's going to underpin our futures. It's a whole, I don't know quite how to explain it, but I explain it as a whole multi-layered structure where the single data centre facility can support multiple levels of economic activity.
Sure.
And that's what everybody needs to be saying. So I'm very happy to help you say that because everybody saying that will help me.
It's interesting you say that because recently somebody who, and policy obviously is an area that needs, certainly the other side, which is the governmental side, have to at least know the question before they can proffer any form of an answer. And I guess the question of, we're not sure about data centres because we think it'll be replaced by the cloud, is something that's a common theme that doesn't have borders. And to your point, if the perception of the global industry is such, and it is the fabric of the global digital economy, that it doesn't bode well for most people in any geographic location.
No.
Have you got the sense that we're coming closer?
I think there's a big difference in perception. So I think, for instance, in the Netherlands, the government gets the data centre proposition. They understand that data centres are critical national infrastructure underpinning every digital transaction. I think in the UK, bits of government understand that, but we certainly are nowhere near where we'd like to be on that. I'm quite interested to know what the situation in Ireland is. I think, again, it's patchy. I think some people get it, some people don't get it. And so, in a sense, the most important thing we can do is educate and explain in a fairly objective way. And that's what I try and do.
And I think one of the difficulties we have is because to us it's just an evolution of how data is consumed, delivered and transmitted. Ireland, for instance, we've been doing data for 60 years, mainframe, mini computer, PC. So I give a talk called Everybody Has a Plan Until They Get a Punch in the Nose, right? And a little bit at the moment, certain geographic locations feel to me a little bit like 2013-14 in the UK, when you didn't have a problem, you had a real problem, and then you galvanized, it seemed, and you were at the apex of that to try and get people to understand that if 70% of your OPEX is energy, you're naturally going to be more efficient as you can. Whereas, you with the whole carbon trust initiative, that seemed to galvanise groups, did it? Or
I think that was the climate change agreement that we developed
the climate
with government.
change agreement, yes.
Yes, I think the issue there was that government had applied in the UK a very punitive tax to large energy users.
Irrespective of industry.
Irrespective of industry, called the carbon reduction commitment. And this essentially punished the whole data centre operation, because as soon as you consolidated the IT activity into a sort of purpose-built facility, you'd pop that facility over the threshold at which you become liable for this extra tax. Okay. So it rewarded people for keeping IT function distributed in horrible little hot server cupboards and that kind of stuff, and punished the operators. And it punished the more efficient people as well, because what it punished you for was for using more energy, irrespective of what your productivity was. So we fought that really hard, and eventually we got the industry galvanised around that, and a lot of it was explanation about showing how data centres work, showing that they consolidated. The fact that they were energy intensive did not mean that they were energy wasteful.
Correct.
And that is a really hard thing to get across sometimes.
Yes.
So they always think, oh, energy intensive, there must be loads of scope to save energy here. There isn't always. I mean, there is within the sector some, but it's not by nature.
And it's a point that you brought up last night, which I think is often not understood, is just because you have an X size into your facility doesn't mean you're consuming that X size.
The difference between power provisioning and energy consumption, there is no direct relationship between the two. Yes, if you have enormous power provisioning, perhaps you're likely to be a larger site and you use more. But people often add up the power provisioning of data centres and say, well, gosh, is this much power provisioning? Therefore, times that by 8,760, and this is your megawatt, terawatt hours for the year. No.
So it's about education.
Yeah.
And it's about then taking the vested interests that you have from the renewable source people and local politics that go on with rates and taxes and stuff. And I think that is, even if you go to parts of North America, they get the part of it and they don't get the other part. They sort of understand that you need power, but then they forget you need comms, right? So one final point. We're sitting here in 1 year time. What would you really have liked to have seen happen that you're working on?
That I'm working on? I think I would like generally for people to perceive the data centre sector as a career destination of choice.
Okay, so it's interesting, we had some discussions earlier with another speaker, and it was the creation, retention and attraction of talent. Yeah,
and I think I would agree with that in the sense that I don't know anybody who made a specific decision when they were 17 or 20 or to work in a data centre. Now, okay, they didn't really exist in that sense for most of us. I certainly didn't, but I'm having a lovely time working with data centres, and I think that what I'd love to see is people think, oh, data centre, that would be a really exciting place to work. And that's what I'd love to see in a year's time, us being considered as a career destination of choice.
Well, Emma Fryer, thank you so much for your time.
Very well.
Thank you for coming over to Ireland.